Welcome back to another episode of Kapow. I'm Sonya.
And I'm Al, and here we are once again at Kings Comics for our final episode of the year, which is always kind of a bittersweet moment.
Yeah, but it's also the time of year that a fat guy with a beard comes and gives me free stuff, so, you know, that cheers me up no end.
See, I cheer myself up by settling down in front of the TV for some Christmas classics,
Yep.
you know, like Lethal Weapon or Rambo First Blood, or, of course, Die Hard.
Well, yeah, of course. But whatever your traditions are this magical time of the year, I'm sure you'll all find a bit of time to sit down and read a few comics, which is exactly what we've been up to.
Yes, we will be reviewing issue 1s of Squawrias, Mono, and Captain Stone is Missing.
We'll also be taking a look at Trilogy USA from Dark Horse and Volume 1 of Casanova from Image.
And Ray will be in to talk about a Superman premium format figure, as well as his pick for Best Anime of 2014.
Plus, to top it all off, we'll be having a bit of a roundtable discussion, looking back at the year that was, the year that will be, and probably finding things to complain about.
Oh, absolutely. Now, what is your favourite Christmas movie, by the way? What, Long Kiss Goodnight, Die Hard 2?
No, I'm a bit more of a traditionalist. I like It's a Wonderful Life.
Never heard of it. No, I'm talking about classic Christmas movies, like Gremlins.
Well, I know what to get you for Christmas this year.
A Mogwai?
No.
What? No, I swear I wouldn't feed him after midnight.
You so
I
would.
so would. Like while he's in the shower, too.
Yeah.
Just
Disaster.
mayhem. It'd be awesome.
It's hard sometimes to find the right Secret Santa gift or stocking stuffer when you get closer to Christmas. So, you know, why don't you throw in a couple of comics?
Because you can't put a comic in a stocking. They get all curly.
No,
You can't.
I meant more of a metaphorical stocking.
That would be a great name for a band. Firstly, on our list of possible metaphorical stocking stuffers, we're looking at a title that began with a Kickstarter project, Squawrias, written by Ash Maxo with art by Ashley Witter.
Squawrias focuses on the trials of a group of woodland creatures who call themselves the Tinkin, as they fight to survive against rival tribes and rapidly dwindling resources. Let me say though, up front, that there is nothing cutesy about these survivalist rodents. Their battles are frequent and bloody, with Witter refusing to skimp on the gore.
Yeah, it is a graphically violent tale, but one that left me unsatisfied. The strength in anthropomorphic storytelling is often in the way that it makes us look at familiar themes with fresh eyes. But Squawrias, for all its, spear-toting rodent characters, is still a very by-the-numbers story.
True, but they're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. This is a post-event story. You've got settlements living amongst the ruins of human civilization, warring with each other over land and food. Yes, this is a story that we've seen before, but I think it's well told. I was a big fan of the Redwall series growing up, and I am still a sucker for a squirrel with a bow and arrow.
That does kind of bring me to another gripe, though. I liked the art style overall, but I thought that the action was a little unclear. There was a lack of cause and effect that made it hard to follow.
I will admit I did have to backtrack a couple of times to be sure of the process of events, but I think that was more due to getting confused as to which animal was which, and that's maybe a drawback to this realistic art style.
Exactly. Look, not to sound racist or anything, but all mice do kind of look the same to me.
Dude!
Sorry, that was inappropriate. Look, in the end, I just didn't feel like I connected with this comic. I thought the look of it was good, but there wasn't enough that was new to keep me interested. So I'm gonna have to give this one a bury.
Fair enough. Well, look, I did really like it. The art style is impressive, and I think that as the story progresses, the characters are all going to differentiate themselves. So I'm going to give it a borrow.
Fair enough. Now, the next two comics that we're looking at are both published by Madefire, a company that's been making some waves with its new motion book application.
Yes, but being the technologically fearful Luddites that we are, we've opted for the hard copy. But we will be checking out the app very soon.
First up, from Madefire founders Ben Wolstenholme and Liam Sharp, we have issue 1 of Mono, the Old Curiosity Shop.
Harking back to the pulp heroes of old, Mono serves up the untold story of a hybrid ape man operating as an agent for the British throne during the mid-20th century. We are launched swiftly into the action in this first issue as Mono infiltrates occupied France and throws down against the German war machine.
I have to say that although I'm sure Madefire's motion book animations and music must extend the experience, the artwork is very high quality even on paper. There's a great sense of momentum to the action and a moody, noir-drenched filter across every panel.
I also really enjoy the character work. Mono is a portrait of contradictions, a noble savage who is literate and poetic one moment, then enraged and brutal the next. There's not a lot of story development in this first issue, but there is more than enough intrigue to keep me going, so I'm giving it a buy.
Absolutely. Look, I agree. There are welcome shades of characters like Mignola's Hellboy to Mono, beyond the fact that they both have prehensile tails, and you find yourself instantly engaged. I'm giving this one a buy as well.
Finally, we come to part 1 of Captain Stone is Missing, again with Liam Sharp's name on the front, but this time as the artist, along with writing by Christina McCormack.
Captain Stone is a superhero in a world without superheroes, the leader of a paramilitary group called the Stone Corps, and despite his name being plastered across the front cover twice, he has next to nothing to do with this first issue.
True. The exposition is all regarding a woman called Charlie Chase, a recluse with a violent and dark past. Presumably having a connection to Captain Stone, most likely as enemies, Charlie shares fractured images of her life, from being a preteen cat burglar alongside her father to a career in modelling, to hints of something much more dangerous.
It has to be said, though, that the standout of this issue is the artwork. Sharp jumps from style to style throughout, showing hints of Bill Sienkiewicz, David Mack, Darwin Cook, and since the story is a journey through Charlie's musings on her life, it doesn't seem inappropriate that the art styles veer around so rapidly.
True. I think without that quality in the artwork, I probably would have judged this a little bit more harshly. It is story poor for an issue 1. But I am interested to see how the character of Charlie Chase kind of develops through the series. There's heaps of intrigue in there, so it's a buy from me.
Yeah, and look, I did feel that sometimes the writing tiptoed a little close to being pretentious, but there's a mystery here worth unraveling, and if the art style stays up to this level, I am definitely in, so I'm giving it a buy as well.
Cool. Hey, what kind of music do you think Metaphorical Stocking would play?
I'm thinking like 1950s swing music classics, but sung like death metal.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Doesn't it?
Just
I
awful.
would never go to that show.
No. Hey, Ray.
Hey Sonya, hey guys.
So how do you think the year went as far as anime is concerned?
Well, anime proved to be a huge force on the pop culture scene yet again, and there's always hundreds of titles that are released, and I always find it difficult to wade through the crap. But I have a selection of titles that I wanted to share with you that were my picks of 2014. Number 1, Tokyo Ghoul, and number 2, Akame ga Kill. There's also a title called No Game, No Life, which is hugely popular. Now, in terms of a continuing series, I thought Sword Art Online 2 kept audiences hooked for another season. But my pick of the year is Watanabe's Terror in Resonance. The art direction, writing, and of course Kano's soundtrack combined is superb. But because we've already reviewed that title, I thought I'd throw something else at you this week.
Awesome. So what you got for us, right?
Well, the title, or the Western title, is called Parasite. The premise is simple. One night, worm-like creatures called parasites appear on Earth, taking over the brains of human hosts by entering through their ears or noses. One parasite attempts to invade 17-year-old Shinichi while he sleeps, but fails. Instead, it burrows into his arm and resides there. The parasite, called Miji, grows, but because it didn't seize control of the brain, both beings retain their separate intellect and personality, unlike the unfortunate others. The duo form a bit of a bond while encountering other parasites of whom they frequently have to fight to stay alive.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. What's the story like?
Well, it's good. The first episode I thought was a bit clunky. They're trying to rush through a lot of the crazy circumstances and necessaries, but they still managed to get some tender moments in there too, which kind of gives promise to the rest of the series. But once it gets going, it really starts to take off. The parasites look great. They can morph themselves into any number of shapes, but the way they devour humans, which they must do for food, is gruesome to watch. I also liked that our protagonist, Shinichi, has an intelligence and a developing courage. He's not totally inadequate. And the relationship between him, the host, and his parasite, Miji, is solid.
So what about the visual style?
It's impressive, but I don't think it's boundary pushing.
Sure.
The landscape design and background art is of a high quality. The animation is smooth, action sequences are fluid and dynamic, and the alien morphing makes for some unique movement. The soundtrack is quite catchy. It's interesting to hear a blend of electronic vocals with heavy metal vocals, and then throughout the series you can also hear elements of dubstep as well, so it's a very modern sound, and the opening theme is huge. What I really liked also was the characterization, the voice characterization, particularly of the aliens. They seem to have developed a kind of speech pattern or intonation across the board, but individually, depending on who the alien's host is, they sound completely unique, and it's really fun to listen to.
Yeah, it sounds completely opposite to Terror in Resonance, which of course we started talking about at the beginning.
Yes.
So is that a good thing?
Yeah, it is. You know, it's great to find something that's awesome of another genre, because sometimes you can get a little tired of, you know, sitting in the one thing all the time, just like any live action film, I guess, which actually leads me to another point. This title has already got two live action films slated for release.
Awesome.
So yeah, I think it's going to be pretty big. I'd say there's a second series, or second series is imminent. So do check it out and let me know what you think, because I reckon it's going to grow on you.
Just getting that final dad joke in for the year there, Ray.
No? No. I thought of that one.
Collected in hardcover for the first time, Trilogy USA is the work of writer Eves H. and artist Herman, a look through the seamy side of America through the eyes of 3 different policemen in 3 different eras.
The first part of the trilogy, Blood Ties, focuses on a rookie detective called Sam Layton and on his investigation into a series of murders which lead him to a seductive lounge singer, a mysterious private detective, and ultimately into conflict with the most powerful man in the city.
I enjoyed this first story. I'm a big fan of the noir genre, as you know, and I felt like Blood Ties took the concept in an interesting direction. You're not likely to see the twist coming when it does, but that's not for lack of foreshadowing.
No, and I think the art style really stands up too. Each panel is daubed in a grim grey or brown watercolour. There are also some nice visual references to the genre, like the reproduction of Edward Hopper's famous painting, Nighthawks.
The second story is titled Manhattan Beach 1957 and features a new city, a new point in time, and a new cop. This time his name is John Haig.
John is a man lost in yesterday. Repeated black and white flashbacks show us a tragedy in his youth, while in his present day he remains in grayscale, showing his unwillingness to move on. It's an elegant way of establishing the character. Also, Elvis is his imaginary friend.
John is investigating the rape and murder of a 15-year-old girl when the past that he spends so much time obsessing over starts coming back to haunt him and places him in extreme danger. I think as you move into this second part of the story, you start to see the overall themes and the momentum of the trilogy.
And in the third section, The Girl from Ipanema, we have a further jump forward, and it builds even further on the reoccurring themes: corruption, violence towards women, and the weight of the past.
I did find in some ways that the third part didn't quite mesh though. It becomes a lot more heavily written with large sections of narration, and there's less of a focus on the sole protagonist, in this case, Lieutenant Chavez.
I didn't see that as a negative thing though. It felt like the story was being opened up. It became more complex and more textured, but the overall flavour of the trilogy still ran through it.
I know, but it felt like an odd shift of gears to me, especially reading this hardcover all in one sitting.
Yep.
The first 2 parts felt like they moved along a lot more easily, whereas in the third part, I felt the urge to skim through some of the excessive narration. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a great book, but that lack of focus and momentum at the end made me drop it from a buy down to a borrow.
Okay, well, I actually really liked the third part. I thought the added complexity and larger cast of characters just added something to that story. The art style throughout is just beautiful, highlighting each one of those eras, and there's a really clever use of music and lyrics throughout this book that I really liked. This is something I am so gonna reread, so it's a buy from me. So Ray, I gotta ask, have you started to run out of room yet?
Yes, I ran out of room a fair while ago, actually, but it hasn't stopped me from collecting. I just have to be a little bit more selective.
Okay, so out of this year's releases, what were your highlights?
Very hard to choose from. There were a lot of huge releases this year. Probably easier for me to break it down by manufacturer. Kotobukiya, surprisingly, didn't have a very outstanding year in my opinion. I thought they fell by the wayside a little bit. Gentle Giant had some good releases, but nothing that was eye-popping.
Yep.
Weta re-released The Balrog, which is an amazing piece, and it's larger than the first edition. McFarlane Toys followed up their Michonne piece with an amazing diorama, this time featuring Rick Grimes, and Hot Toys had another stellar year, but my pick across the bunch is the Han Solo and Chewbacca set. Just wow.
I really liked the Rocket and Groot duo too.
Yes, also very nice, but the big new player on the scene, XM Studios, they threw down the gauntlet with some of the nicest pieces I have ever seen. Their Magneto is outstanding. And of course, one of my favourite Sideshow collectibles pumped out the goods as well, one of which, my particular favourite, I brought along to show today.
Well, come on, where is it? Show and tell, show and tell.
Yes, yes, yes. It's the Superman premium format figure by Sideshow Collectibles. Standing roughly 65 centimeters tall, he's poised in a classic stoic position as a mark of his heroism.
He looks magnificent.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
I'm really glad they didn't try to do too much with this piece. I don't think characteristically it's necessary.
It's such a strong pose, with his chest highlighting the prominent S and his fists clenched. I get a sense of determination.
Absolutely. I love that they made the suit out of fabric. It adds another dimension to him. The most important feature, I think, is the cape, which has always symbolically given him a sense of majesty. The base is simple, but I like that it suggests the Fortress of Solitude.
So, do you have any problems with this piece, Ray?
Yeah, I do actually. The switch-out head that came with the exclusive had these little red swizzles that came out of his lasery eyes, and it just looked really cheap and tacky. That, and I thought that the underwear was just a tad too large on him. I didn't want it to look too much like a nappy. Does it? No, I don't think so.
I don't think
Only
so.
if I draw the attention to it, right? Yeah.
So you typically criticise pieces for being passive or dynamically lacking somehow. What about this one?
Well, firstly, I think this is the kind of image that you want from your Superman. Even though he's a great action hero, I think his essence is captured best in a stoic stillness. And secondly, the cape creates all the movement, so it doesn't feel too static. But most of all, this image, largely due to the head sculpt, just struck a chord with me. I think that's the question that everyone asks, isn't it? Like, what is the iconic version of Superman? And I think Sideshow Collectibles have done a really good job to bring a balance between the comics, the early comics particularly, and the cartoons, and even the films as well, into this iconic classic piece. The more I look at him, the more striking he becomes, and I think you at home will be able to see that as well.
Over the last few years, comics have become more and more referential, sometimes to literature, sometimes to movies, sometimes to themselves. But when it comes to Casanova, written by Matt Fraction with art by Gabriel Barr, the referentialism is compounded by a sense of psychedelic abandon and a pace that is nothing short of dizzying.
Yeah, the overall effect is like sprinting through different cinemas in a megaplex while being chased by security, probably stark naked, except for one of those giant foam novelty hands.
Okay, in an effort to get that image out of our minds, let's break down the story a bit. Casanova Quinn is a master thief, a womanizer, and a perpetual disappointment to his father, who is the Nick Fury-style director of an espionage agency called Empire.
Which is one of the many acronyms in this series, none of which I noticed being properly explained. But if you're into things being explained, then this may not be the comic you're looking for. Following the death of his sister, Casanova is transported into another dimension by a bandaged super lunatic called Newman Zeno, who enlists him to work as a double agent in Empire since, in this dimension, Casanova is his father's most trusted agent.
What follows is a series of adventures that almost defy description. It unfolds in a confusing jumble, sometimes out of order and always out of the ordinary.
I think what's most bizarre is how well it all works.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all so beautifully hectic. I feel like Casanova is a backlash against grim comic book storytelling, and despite having scenes that hint at cannibalism, incest, and various other forms of depravity, it's all done with this satirical touch that completely takes the sting out of it.
Yeah, and it's that self-aware twist that shows that Fraction really is reveling in the comic format. I also found that Gabriel Barr stretched the character models to the point of almost making them caricatures. His style is perfect for this kind of abstract and bombastic storytelling.
I must say, though, that I don't think this comic will be for everyone. The structure of the story is so dependent on the references, both to specific source material and to the overall way that comics work, that casual readers may feel a little bit left out of the joke.
Yeah, but I don't think understanding the references is as important as just letting yourself go for the ride. Look, as long as you don't try to make sense of everything, Casanova is a fast-paced mind trip of a book that really will reward the time you spend reading it. It's a buy from me.
Yeah, look, absolutely. It's a buy from me as well. I think this is what creator-owned series should be like.
Yeah.
Just diving headfirst into a pool of creative madness, probably wearing nothing more than a giant foam novelty hand. Hey, for Christmas...
No.
No, I would wear...
Nope.
You want to go to the movies?
No, wait, what?
So 2014 was another huge year for pop culture geeks and nerds like us and you out there. There was so much new TV, film, collectibles, comics, excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any particular favourites you wanted to share with us?
There was a lot that I really liked in 2000. There was a lot of TV shows that I really enjoyed. I think one of the surprises for me was actually How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Yeah.
Because sequels are often awful, especially animated sequels. I don't know why, but they are.
Yeah.
But I loved it. It was so good. And I know we didn't do a review on it, but go watch it. It's great. It's a buy. I cried. I laughed. It was brilliant.
She did, like a hungry, angry baby.
Shut up. And as far as comics are concerned, Witches, Scott Snyder's Witches, amazing, creepy, scares the bejesus out of me,
is
and
really
it's
scary.
so good, so good.
Al?
Well, look, a lot of great stuff, as you say, but I mean, in comics, I loved seeing Nathan Edmondson coming into Marvel, doing The Punisher, doing Black Widow,
so
just
good.
bringing that hard-edged espionage thriller style that he does. It's just given them a breath of fresh air. I also, in terms of the TV stuff, one of the big surprises for me was Constantine, especially since I watched the pilot, and I hated it. Hated it. But then Sonya got me to give it another try after a few eps were out,
good.
and they turned it all around, rewrote the whole. It was working really well, giving the sense of the character that I was missing. So that was great.
Cool. Well, a bit of a sleeper hit for me was Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously. Interstellar, I know it's not based on any comics or cartoons, but that was a really surprising film for me. I've already sort of touched on my collectible and cartoon or anime, so I thought maybe I'd ask you guys what are you looking forward to most next year, 2015? What's on the agenda?
So much coming out.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to pick anything.
With all the reimaginings that are coming out next year.
Yeah, I guess for me it's not really a reimagining. It's I'm really looking forward to Age of Ultron. I think that's going to be really cool, or it's going to be awful, and that kind of scares me a little bit.
Trust in Joss.
But I trust in Joss.
Trust in Joss.
I do, and I think it's going to be amazing. And as far as comics are concerned, there's so much amazing stuff coming out all the time, but. We all know Humanoids is a bit of a soft spot for me. They bring out really cool stuff, really left of field. So I'm really looking forward just to see what they bring out next year.
Cool. Al?
Well, look, it may seem absolutely. I'm sure you'll rip on me for this being a cop-out, but what I'm looking forward to next year is the surprises. Not the ones that I know are coming, but the indie stuff, the reimaginings of characters that I never would have seen coming, and just completely reinvigorate a character or introduce a new favourite. That's what I love in all through geekdom.
It is always
just the
fun.
interesting new stuff.
It is always fun when you kind of read something or you watch a film and you're like, that's amazing.
Never would have thought of that.
Never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
That is always such a cool feeling.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to Attack on Titan, the second series. I think it's going to be huge. Also, there's a movie coming out very soon as well. It's like a prequel. It's the story of Levi, the rise of Levi. I think that's going to whet the fans' appetite. I think certainly for the second series. And I'm looking forward to seeing XM Studios, they're kind of a rising force in the in the world of collectibles. Even though their pre-orders sell out so fast and they're quite expensive, you should check out the Jean Grey, a Phoenix statue. It is incredible. Now, with all of this bombardment of pop culture and geekdom, do you think that we're in danger of of an overkill, of there being just too much on the plate, and we're full and we're sick of it and we don't even want dessert?
No, can't. I couldn't. Not even a Thin Mint.
No.
Look, there is always that possibility. I mean, it happened when, I can't remember when it was, but there was so many disaster films. So many!
Yeah.
Just stop it! Stop ending the world!
2012.
And I think we are probably getting to that point, especially with the new year. We've got reimaginings of old
Jurassic
series.
Park,
We've got
Mad
Jurassic
Max.
Park, Mad Max. So if they're done poorly, you're just going to have this swathe of fans just going, well, why did you even bother making it? That was terrible, and really slamming it. Because, you know, look what we did to TMNT.
Sure. Deservedly.
Deservedly. But, I mean, 2014 had a lot to it as well, and I certainly am not fatigued yet. But I do think they're going to have to make better films and stronger characters to keep the audiences going back and paying the money to see the movies. And same with comic books. You have to keep raising the bar. Otherwise, you know, why would we bother reading anything new?
Yeah. Al?
That's fair. Look, I think the question is the bubble going to burst? And I think the answer is absolutely it will. Absolutely.
It has to.
It can't help but eventually just boom.
Yeah.
You know, people will get a bit sick of the bombardment of so many. You know, you look at the upcoming DC and Marvel movies, upcoming Marvel TV
all
shows.
the TV shows, yeah.
So much stuff that I think eventually, yes, the bubble will burst. We will reach critical mass and people will stop caring so much. But the upside to that, I think we're actually going to come out of it stronger. You know, with that explosion, it's all going to seep into the zeitgeist, and we'll actually start looking to different areas, not just the headliners, not just your Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. You know, we're going to actually see some of the more fringe characters.
Oh, you think we'll see like a rise of independent kind of,
I would hope so.
you know, underground hero types as
and
well?
hopefully not such poor choices as R.I.P.D. and stuff like that, because God knows that was terrible. But yeah, I think somewhere in that more sort of indie area where there's just thick veins of story just
There
waiting
really
to
is,
be
yeah.
mined.
Awesome. Well, yeah,
Right?
I agree. Yeah, I think it's going to be too much. There's too much world-ending stuff. How many cities can we destroy? And,
All of them.
You know, how many single heroes can rise to, you know, teach everything and everyone a
They'd
lesson?
start bumping into each other.
Yeah, well, they try to get them to all bump into each other, and it just doesn't really meld very well, I don't think. Well, the Avengers sort of worked.
That works.
The first one. We'll see how we go with the as it that series
More
continues.
heroes coming in.
Yeah, but I think people are just going to get tired of it. And also, they won't be able to focus so much. They're going to have to be forced to choose as well. So they're going to get to a point where, you know, I really like that and this, but there's so much for me to choose. I'm going to have to cut and sever certain things. So you're going to see, as quickly as they come out, you're going to see them die off, I
It'd
think,
be
as
like the
quickly as
Hunger
well.
Games, but for superheroes.
But
Yes.
superheroes.
God, that would be cool. Maybe that's going to be one of the new things that's going to surprise me.
That would surprise you.
Hunger
Yeah.
Hero Games.
All right, well, that's what we thought about 2014 and what's coming out in 2015.
Yep.
So leave your thoughts on our, you know, social pages about what you thought the best of 2014 was, what you are most looking forward to in 2015, and also, do you think that the bubble is going to burst, and is it a good or bad thing?
And so we come to the end of our final episode for 2014. What a year it has been.
You know what? You have really grim taste in holiday movies.
Why?
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
You gave me a movie where the bad guy gets away with it.
Oh, it's about a guy who realizes he's rich in spirit and in friends. You know, it's wholesome
Yeah,
Yuletide messages.
And meanwhile, Old Man Potter wheels away with the stolen bank takings. I mean, that's like Hans Gruber getting away on a helicopter while John McClane's downstairs singing Auld Lang Syne with Richard Vernon from The Breakfast Club.
All right, so we need to find some common ground here.
Like what?
Well, Batman Returns.
Okay, deal.
Yeah,
Deal. Now
okay.
that's on. Now, guys, we have had such a great year with you, and we look forward to seeing you in 2015 with even more fantastic comics, animations, and collectibles.
Yep, but until then, hope you all have a lovely Christmas, and thank you so much for being wonderful Kapowians. Bye.
Bye.